Do I want to manage in the MLS? 100%. Can I? Yeah. The last time I spoke to you, I probably wasn't in a rush to leave. The more I thought about my own career and pathway, I think I was always going to have to do something different to get to where I wanted to get to. Something I said to Dean Smith, I'm going to be a better coach than I was player.
You had a really good understanding of the game. I think better than probably most around you.
For me, it's always different for everyone. How I would look at it as a 20-year-old or 22-year-old, I'd be that hungry and desperate to do well. I'm starving to do well. Like we always say, is what you're willing to do there, lads. What you're willing to do to get to where you want to get to.
Second time round for today's guest, Gary Dicker, and we've needed to get him in the door as he is about to walk out for a new career in the USA. Gary, talk to us about what's on the horizon.
Yeah, sadly, I'll be leaving Brighton to go to Charlotte in the MLS. It's a role that came up a few months ago and one that really excited me when I went over to see the place and speak to the club. So it was a really tough decision as well.
We've spoke about this a lot, haven't we, Gary, about how good this job you've got is at the football club as part of the 23 management team, and that progression and how that progression looks like. We spoke about jobs in National League, League Two, and how difficult they are, and I suppose how unsupported you are in those positions, and how cutthroat they are. But this one's one that really tickled your fancy.
Yeah, I think the last time I spoke to you, I probably wasn't in a rush to leave or to go somewhere. But in football, they say 24 hours is a long time in football, and it popped up. And the more I thought about my own career and pathway, I think I was always going to have to do something different to get to where I wanted to get to. I wasn't going to land on my feet and get a really good job straight away. So I had to weigh up really the pros and cons of where I see myself and the opportunity that I have to go out there and to progress as a coach and hopefully get to the next step. It was more appealing for me to do that journey then, which has no problem with it, but the normal journey that people seem to do in the UK.
Who are you going to be working with out there, and what will you be doing?
So I'll be moving over. It'll be pretty similar. I'll be head coach for the second team, and hopefully get a little bit more exposure with the first team. I met Dean Smith when I went out there. People will know him well from being over here, and I'll be going to pre-season with them when I first go over in January.
Where's pre-season, Dixie?
It's in Miami, sadly.
See, these are things that just tip a job for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Miami, and
Good for me.
then where's your pre-season at?
I'm going to Bermuda.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Wow.
So no, I'm really looking forward to it, and as I said, it's a next step for me, and it's the next stage in my career that I feel like I need to make. It's a young man's game now. Managers out there, head coaches out there. I think you see Fabian, and it's all about opportunity and trying to take an opportunity when you're given it, and you got to do certain times, certain risks, and I've done it in my own career where it just feels right. And I think probably the main thing is probably the support from my family. It's been massive. I've obviously got 2 young kids, and they're massive Brighton fans, and my wife's from here, so it was a big move from them.
I guess 20 or 30 years ago, you'd have gone over there, and people from Brighton Hove Albion, and people would have said so. Brighton Hove Albion. Now, when you go over there, you're going from a club that's just beaten Manchester City in the Premier League, so it kind of gives you a lot of weight, doesn't it? It gives you a lot of authority.
Yeah, definitely. I spoke to Paul Barber, I spoke to David Weir, Ian Buckman, and obviously thanked them for the opportunity that they gave me to come here, because when you're looking from the outside in, it is a club where everyone wants to be at, whether you're a player or a coach. And the education I had here was second to none. What I've learned under the managers, the staff here, worked with some great people here, learned so much and developed loads. I think when I first came in to where I am now, I'm a hell of a lot better than I was. Because when you stop playing, Glenn will know, you've got loads of stuff in your head and you want to think, but the staff and the environment here, how I've developed with the club, I think it's been a really good fit. And listen, without Brighton, I wouldn't be getting this opportunity. And I made sure the players knew that as well when I spoke to them and all the staff, because everyone's played a part.
Have you got a sense of the level out there, the level that you're going into? Because football in America is progressing, but it's always slightly difficult to know how fast. And from what you've seen and what you've looked at, you know, how high is the level you're walking into?
I think it's always difficult. I think when you look at any leagues and you try compare leagues, but the one thing it is I don't think it's a retirement league anymore. I think players are going a lot younger there. The standard of the players coming through is a lot better now. Obviously, they're nowhere near to the level that we have over here in this country with the Premier League. We know how big that is and how long it's taken to get there. So for me, it's exciting. I think it's a relatively new club. I'll be going in with loads of ideas, learning loads from there as well, which I'll be grabbing from different sports when I'm over there as well. I'm going to try and peek into everyone's brain that I can. So there'll be a lot of good stuff that's going on there and just trying to add your own stuff. But the standard, I think it is getting better. Is it the Premier League? No. But what other league is? So I'm looking forward to it, and it's an opportunity probably to test myself with players, and that's part of my job here as a development coach. Kind of make people better, whether you're a manager at under 12s or you're in the first team. You got to make people better.
How much of a tipping point was it, Dean Smith being over there, someone that you're familiar with, that we've seen week in, week out in the Premier League, the likes of Aston Villa? Nice to be going over there to help someone of his stature.
100%. I think when I went to meet him, he made it so comfortable to speak to him. I know what it's like going into knocking a manager's door. I had to present to him, obviously, when I was over there.
That was after bad performances usually. But yeah.
Definitely. So I had to go in and present to him.
You presented to Dean Smith?
Yeah, so
okay.
I had to present back a game that the first team played in. So straight away you're either on the front foot or on the back foot, which is a really good challenge because it's how you see the game, isn't it?
So when you say present back, Gary, do you mean you break the game down?
Yeah, I broke it down. So
Yeah.
I broke it down. It was Charlotte against Philadelphia, so I had to break the game down. And
That's
what I
hard
seen.
to do, to walk into a manager's office and break his own team down in front of him.
Yeah, so I had to notice the stuff that they were trying to do, what the opposition were trying to do. But the beauty of it is, listen, when it's your own, it's my take of his stuff, but the fact that I've been doing it so much here anyway, listen, I do it every week. I watch a team play, watch us play, and I relay it. So I was actually quite comfortable with that.
Were you critical at any point?
Not really. I tried to keep it. I flipped it because...
Can't be too critical, I'm not going to get this job.
No, not really. Why I flipped it is I done how we do it here, in possession, out of possession. So I was acting as if I was looking at it as a Charlotte coach, the good stuff we done, and then what they tried to hurt us with, and then how we hurt them. So I made it positive in that way. They obviously won the game, which helped. But no, it was a really good challenge, and I ended up speaking to him for well over 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So he asked me lots of questions. We both asked each other the same question: why? He gave the same answers. He said when he first came about, he probably wouldn't have thought of it as much and went over to see the place. His son actually went to university over there, so he was always in North Carolina, and then he went and seen it and he was blown away by it. The level that it's trying to get up to, the players they're signing now, it's younger, standards getting better, and he was at the perfect time for him in his career. So that gave me a bit of comfort as well, knowing that. And I think you said it, to go and work under someone who's worked at nearly every level. I'm sure we played against him when he was at Walsall, so he's come the whole way up. Pretty similar career. He started out, he was speaking about when he was at Walsall. So it's really good for me, and listen, to learn from any manager, especially one that's had the career he's had, is a blessing.
And with the position that you've taken at Charlotte, what would be the next steps you could see yourself taking from there?
Yeah, listen, I'm not in a massive rush, even though it's a great opportunity for me to develop, to look at your next step, but I've got to do the job that I'm sent over there to first. I'm not looking too far ahead, which I wasn't even when this job came up, and I just want to keep progressing and getting better. Do I want to manage in the MLS? 100%. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't want it. Can I? Yeah. And I said it, something I said to Dean Smith, I'm going to be a better coach than I was player. I think I knew that anyway when I was playing. Physically, I wasn't able to probably produce what I needed to produce, but my brain was always my strongest part when I was a player. And I knew I'd be a better coach than I was a player. So I'm going out there to back myself like anyone does. What are you laughing at?
I'm not laughing. I was going to say it's quite an admission that.
Don't get me wrong, I love playing. So I speak to Calday a lot, and he's like, I prefer coaching. I love coaching, but for me, playing was everything. I loved it. Don't get me wrong, there's days where you don't, and it's tough, but I think when I spoke to the lads, listen, it gave me everything. I don't know about you, but met my wife, my kids, it's given me opportunities, it's opened doors for me. I've experienced some of the best experiences on and off the pitch, and that was my message to the lads. Like, that's why we get on them, or you're not letting them away with little things, because I know what the game can give you. And it's not the money and all that stuff that comes with it, but all the other stuff, the people you meet, where you end up, it opens up so many doors for you. Yeah, it's priceless for me, that stuff.
It's funny to think that a lot of ex-players got no interest whatsoever in coaching, and yet others are drawn to it. What's the thing that you're really drawn to when you leave the game and you think, I want to coach?
I think you have to love it. I think it's the difference of loving it as a player and then loving it as a coach. As you ask me about what the standards like, I'll watch any game of football. I've watched loads of MLS now. I've watched Standing Town. I'll go watch a game wherever. So I've always loved the game from a young age. I was always interested. Would have been the busy one that always wanted to know why we were doing stuff.
He was the busy one.
Or what shape we're playing, or how we can hurt teams, or why are we doing that. So I've always had a real interest in it. Also hinders you as well, because now you can't watch a game normally as a fan, because you're always constantly looking at stuff.
Yeah.
But you that came through in the way that you played. I think you had a really good understanding of the game. I think better than probably most around you. I think on the ball and forward passes, you were probably the most creative player at the football club at that point.
I think Gus helped me loads, and the style that we changed it. I think I'll always say, like, it's so important, when you have a manager that lets you, not just let you play, but has an understanding of playing. Because I knew if I was in any other side probably in that league, I'd probably have struggled, because the game would have been back and forth every 2 minutes.
We had a lot of control, didn't we?
Yeah, and I couldn't have played like that. With basketball, I used to call it, and I would have suffered. And I probably suffered under different managers that didn't have as much structure. The best managers I played under had structure. Steve Clark, Gus, and even Jim Gannon. They had a structure to how their teams wanted to play, and it helped me. But no, I think coming here and the squad we had, you look at the strikers we had in that squad, it's unbelievable. You had you, Chris Wood, Barnesy,
Elliot Bennett progressed.
Elliot Bennett. Yeah, like, we had some unbelievable attacking players. Nooney, Will Buckley, Lualua. We had so much quality, but
you were the only one that passed it forward out of the midfield naturally.
Yeah, I think when I was a lot younger, I was a little bit more different than when I played near the end of my career. Obviously changed, but I enjoyed it, and I always wanted it. Loads of managers say, but you grow up wanting the ball, don't you? You play football to have the ball. And I'll always say it, the best players in the world, and I said it in the office, play the game the same when the under-8s to under first team. And there's not many that do it, but the ones that stick out for me, like your Messi's, Ronaldo's, they play the game exactly the same way, the whole way up. I wasn't blessed to do that. But you always want the ball, and to have managers, I think you'll know as a striker, have someone to come in and know you're not. The first few months I was there, all you were doing was flicking it on and trying to run onto it. And that was when you wanted to run around. But to have someone come in and to have that, and he really opened my eyes to control, like you said it, to actually control a game of football. Nobody done it outside the Premier League.
Well, there was only one team.
Swansea, wasn't it? That done it, and then we couldn't believe it. Like, we were having 80% possession back then.
So how old were you when that light went on, when Gus Poyet turned that light on for you?
I think it was the minute he came in,
Yeah.
straight away. I never really heard, I don't know about you, Glenn, but like talking about numbers and talking about how you can hurt teams certain areas. And I was like, wow, why isn't everyone doing this?
Because I'm just wondering whether you wish somebody pointed out earlier, when you were younger, and you could have had a whole career knowing
It wasn't
that.
really available, I don't think, very much in the Football League.
No, sure.
And I think you see it now, because like, we play certain teams and people are asking, I'm like, but it's different. Like, we're playing Aldershot and we beat them, but their managers and players are under so much pressure because they're living off by a year's contract. So I'm speaking to people like, but he's speaking. I was like, but that's fair. The fear of losing, fear of not getting a contract, it plays a massive part for managers. So it's not actually easy out there for managers, because when we're playing, he's like, he's battering his players, but he's probably 2 games away from going. He's probably 2 games away from not getting another contract next year, and it's really hard for that anxiety and that pressure to come. It's different.
I don't feel as though many managers. I feel as though it was a real merry-go-round when we played. I don't think that's a thing anymore.
No, I think it's slowly drifting out. I think owners are getting a lot braver, giving a lot more younger managers a chance. Listen, that's not to say, and I said it last time, that there isn't some that haven't been able to do that, but I think the game's changing tactically now. I think players are. I think that's the biggest thing. I think you can't just come in and do a 5-0 and go home now, because on a Saturday, in the Premier League, you can't get away with it. You can't get away with it in the other leagues, but it just takes people longer to get found out, as I always say. But the level of coaching, for me, when I came back, has changed. Wow, since I was playing, it's gone up in Eden. The levels of it now, I think when you watch a Premier League game, how tactically it is, and how aware people are of everything now, it's unbelievable.
So a question for both of you then. I think that's better to watch, but do you?
Ooh.
Mostly better to watch, I should say. Not when you see 15 passes in your own half and the ball's still in your own half. That can bore you, but is it a more attractive game now because of that coaching and that?
I have this argument. I think it's probably, I wouldn't say it's better as in what you're looking at, because I think when we all look back, we all think certain areas were great. Because I've arguments with our analyst. He's like, he doesn't believe football began before 2000. And he's like, oh, look at that, that's terrible. Look at the distance. Like, you think of Michael Owen's goal against Argentina in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Ayala's about 50 yards in his own half and the team are attacking. So people are like, oh, yeah, there was no rest defence there. Yeah, there wasn't, but there was moments. I think back then, and this is me being biased, the pool of players was probably better. I always think, go back to the 98 squads, 99, 2000s. But I think the game has changed, but it'll always look different. It's going to look different again in 5-10 years. So I think you just get greedy now because there's so much.
I think I'm in agreement with Gary that there was probably less structure back in the day that sometimes made for more entertainment. I do feel as though players maybe don't think as much for themselves anymore because ultimately they don't have to as much. They're better coached players, and when you talk about those distances, they are the fine details of being successful at any level now. In all fairness, not just the Premier League, right down the Football League, you will see up and coming coaches, young coaches, modern day coaches trying to get the best out of their squads, and I think the detail of becoming a professional footballer and watching football in general it's so intricate, and then there's nostalgia to bring into it as well. It's a difficult one. Yeah. It's a difficult one.
I mean, I suppose because everything is a pattern of play and system based now, that individuality doesn't necessarily thrive in that, does it? Because you're part of a machine rather than there to make a difference by yourself.
I think one person that jumps out for me in that comment there is Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
In a Villa shirt, he was a maverick.
Yeah.
It was exciting, but he was also allowed to do what he wanted. Under Pep Guardiola, Manchester City, he's part of the machine of Manchester City, but he's won more trophies doing that.
Yeah.
I think it's difficult. I think it's totally changed, but I think what makes you a footballer won't change. The graft, the hard work, the suffering, the sacrifice, that's like we always speak about as a lads. All that stuff is massive, and success is little small bottles of it you get, but you have to do all that stuff, and that won't change to get. I think it's probably a lot harder now to be a footballer.
Yeah,
I think just because globally now, so many players and so many leagues and there's so many nationalities now, and you're against that from really early ages now. So I think all the ingredients we talk about being a footballer, that'll never change. But I think the game has, because especially in the Premier League and the Champions League, I think Real Madrid are probably a throwback to what was like. They don't really have a lot of structure. They've got a lot of attacking players. Will outscore you, kind of. PSG tried to do it,
and they often win the Champions League.
Champions League with it.
So true.
So they're probably the only one that when you look back at, because when I think back at Man United in the day, it was all gung ho.
So just quickly there, I made the point that they often win the Champions League, or they often go deep in. Do you think that teams like that are more suited to cup competitions rather than the longevity of a league?
Probably, and it comes down to quality. More quality players you have, I think. You look at their team and listen, they can all defend and attack man for man. You look at all the players they have, and you need luck. Biggest thing in football, luck and an opportunity, I always say to the lads, and you take it. Like all them Champions League, they could have got knocked out that year. They came back 3 or 4 times. I actually done it at one of my pro license. I think it was all about momentum, how good they were at it when they got it that year, and they kept on coming back. So moments change games, don't they? And they've got a lot of big players that can change it, but they're probably the one that is the biggest throwback to it. No real structure. We're better than you.
It's such a good point, that, because this Real Madrid could have been playing in any decade, really, wouldn't they? And they'd have looked pretty much the same. Whereas if you put this Man City team in the 1990s, it would look pretty weird, wouldn't it?
that would be a lot different. Just going back to your upcoming venture in the USA, Gary. The age of the players. So you've got a draft coming up, haven't you?
Yeah.
So draft is players out of college.
Yeah.
So they've done university over there. Yeah. So that'll make them minimum 22?
Yeah, I think it's roughly around that age, 21, 22.
And that'll be their first professional venture. Yeah. Even though in university they will play every day.
Played, yeah. So it'll be pretty similar. It's probably a little bit older because of the system out there, but I think teams have done really well. I know the boy they have playing up front, Ajiman, came through that way, and he's a really good player. and it's a system that works over there because of the universities and the education that they have. So I'm going in pretty blind to that, but I'm really excited about it, about the process they have. I've loads to learn with that bit. So the age group, I think they want to get down lower as much as they can, pretty similar here. And then you have kind of an age bracket where you have a handful that are 21, 22, ideally. So I think they've looked to all the other leagues as well. One thing about, they don't stand still over there, as you know. They're always looking to get better. So they've been tapping into us, and same here at the club. We're trying to get our age down every year.
So do you think getting a 22-year-old who's physically stronger and has more experience will be easily or easier coached than an 18-year-old with less physicality and no experience?
I think it's for me, it's always different for everyone. How I would look at it as a 20-year-old or a 22-year-old, I'd be that hungry and desperate to do well. I'm starving to do well. Like we always say, is what you're willing to do there, lads. What you're willing to do to get to where you want to get to. Whether you're 18 or whether you're at whatever pathway you are. I think of Mark O'Mahony, when he came in on trial. We watched one training session, me and Sham were like, yeah, take him. Got him for peanuts. The minute he was here, he was so hungry to play. Desperate to do anything. You ask him to paint the wall, he'd have painted the wall. But that's not his fault. We'll have Jack Hinchelwood had that, and he was here.
Yeah.
So it's whatever way it is and whatever age. I think same with yourself. Like you were later coming in. It's all about the individual and the mentality. I think it's, you start getting 18 and above. It's between the years then, isn't it? And what you take in and what you're willing to do. But I'm actually really excited about that because I've not seen that type of player yet. Someone who's gone through that system. I've seen it where people have come through non-league and we've signed them. So it's one that I'm really interested to see and see how well we can do it, because a lot of teams have done really well with it.
Strikes me that you're going over there with like an encyclopedic knowledge of the next wave of players down, under 21 players, Premier League first team fringe players. Is all that knowledge that you're going to take over there usable to them? I mean, in terms of players, Premier League discards potentially ending up at your team in America, or is that not really a possibility?
No, I think 100%. I think it's probably a market that you'll probably see a lot more being used.
Yeah.
I know the older players done it. I remember Robbie Keane came back on loan. I remember Beckham done it.
They made it fashionable.
Yeah, Paddy McNair's done it, who people wouldn't really know. He's on loan in the Championship.
Westwood is out of Charlotte.
Westwood's out there at Charlotte. So like, I think for a young player, especially with how this club is growing and Premier League clubs are growing.
Well, Duran
Yeah.
at Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Played in the MLS. So that, I think there's more people coming this way from the MLS that speaks volumes of that quality.
Right.
And I think that's where it'll start linking and going both ways then, a little bit maybe, where it's like, well, do I send a young player, and there's nothing wrong with it, do I send an Andy Moran to League Two, or do I send them to America to play?
Yeah.
Because I can't get them in La Liga, or I can't get them to a Dutch league. So I think it'll be a system that, like Len said, you'll see a lot more coming this way, but probably the younger one that might need to go there. Why wouldn't you want to go on loan?
Why would you want to go and play in League Two in front of 2,500 when you could go to the MLS and play in front of 35,000 week in, week out?
So Rochdale or Miami, is that what you're saying? Yeah. I mean,
Rochdale all the way.
But there's always a place for that. It depends what you're looking for, isn't it? If you need a centre half, you might need to go there.
Yeah.
Because he's struggling in the air, you might need to go to Rochdale and get beat up.
Yeah. No,
or
absolutely.
if you want him to get better and be a Brighton centre back, you might need to play there first, because he's going to have loads of the ball.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the best thing about Brighton at the moment. I think all them little bits that the players don't see and the work that the club do to try, and because we don't mess about when we say like we want everyone to be a footballer. Like, I look at everyone in that dressing room, I mean it. I don't care where you're playing, but once you're a footballer and you got in a career somewhere, and the club try and pick the best bits for them and what's needed. And I think we're brilliant at it with our loan system. I know Gordon and Sam do it, and David Weir, and the care that goes into it. I think even now, like when boys are out on loan, it's like constant feedback. We get constant reports on them from managers, from coaches. We know players, and you're all sticking out. So the club's really good at that, and I think it's going to be a window that I think you will see a lot more younger players where they're going on loan or signing out there to kickstart their career.
And finally, someone's going to take your job here. What would your advice be to them?
Lucky. I do count myself lucky to drive in them gates every day, to see what the club has here. It doesn't really sink in. I was only talking to Paul Barber about it. Like, I remember signing down here and sharing. We had 3 dressing rooms in the uni, didn't we? Yeah. At one stage.
We did.
And it was just to see how it's grown. And I don't think it's ever going back. Ever. And I don't think they'd let it ever go back, whoever's in charge. And so lucky to have the owner that we have. I think everyone worldwide is looking at it going, we need that. We need someone like that. He's a fan, but he's a clever fan. And he loves the club. And he wants everything right within the club. Like, I know you're looking at the window there, but there's a paddle court going up there. There's little stuff that you think, why did they need that? But he's adding to the training ground. Because you know what? That might get the next person in the door, or the next staff member.
Also might build bonds.
Or you might meet people, or you might connect with someone that you don't connect with. But I think they're coming into a job and they're going to be working with some great young players. I said it to the players, like, they're the most important people here, outside of that stuff. But without them, it's nothing. And I've loved it here. I know Glenn came out a few times, but at first he was a bit harsh, and then you get to know the lads, and it's a lot different, isn't it? Yeah. And we always say it, like, you see them more than your friends and family when you're in football. It's that you travel everywhere, you're on away trips, pre-season camps, and you get to know them as people. And that's why it's so good here, because we care about them all. I said it about Jack Hinchy, Luca, they're on loan in League 2. I care about just as much as them as Evan and Jack that are playing in the first team. Hopefully they get to that level as well. So they're coming into a job that that's going to change their view on football and how stuff's done. They're going to learn loads, and they'll really enjoy it, because there's not one person I don't think that won't enjoy driving in them gates and seeing this place, and then what's inside it is even better.
Well, Brighton's loss is Charlotte's gain. All we'd say to you, I think probably to conclude, is that we hope you come back one day.
I'll definitely.
Doors always open.
No, I'll definitely come back. Like I said, my kids are, my wife. I'm a Brighton fan. I'll probably get a bit of stick over that in Ireland, because I think Robbie Keane came out and said he was everyone's fan when he signed for every club, didn't he? But no, listen, it's part of who I am now, really, being here and living here. I'd never sell my house here. We'll always be Brighton fans, so not desperate to come back. And never know, I might see Glenn when he's on one of them pre-season trips that he jumps on, when he's doing loads of work, getting pictures with
yeah, he does.
Pictures with kits on and stuff like that.
It doesn't say much to get him to America, does it?
No.
I'll see you out there.
Yeah.